Hi everyone, Maureen here for FAWN. Thank you so much for joining me and the mouse family on this new video. The last time we saw the mouse family, they were busy in their garden harvesting tomatoes, while today the mice are back for some 4th of July fun adventures. And before going straight into the coloring, these are the stem sets I am going to use today. So we have whoosh kites for 2 mice, kites, clouds, grass, tiny hearts and the fly high small sentiment. Treat card for one of the treats and spoon. Fly high for the hot air balloons, banners and mouse. Crazy antiques for the mice, tiny ants, picnic basket and blanket. And all the speech bubbles for 3 speech bubbles and the hello friend sentiment. So when I do busy scenes like this one, I like to place all my stamped and die cut images on my panel first. I like to play with the placement, put an image here and another one there. I like to move things around until I am happy with how it looks. And doing this whole placement process first, it helps me to divide my panel into different sections that I will stencil after. For that scene, we will have 2 hill borders on the lower part of the panel and a bright summer sky on the upper part. But first, we are going to color the images. As always, I stamp them on 80-pound Neenah Solar Watt cardstock using jet black ink. I cut them using the matching dies, and I am going to color everything using my graphite brush markers and my Spectrum Noir Illustrator markers. And because we are making a 4th of July scene, I am going to use reds, whites and blues to color my images. But you definitely could change the colors and adapt this design to fit the colors on your flag. There are so many possibilities here, and I hope that my card will inspire you to create your own mouse adventure scene. So now that the coloring is done, I am going to color my panel. I cut it out of Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock using the scallop die from the Scalloped Slimline with Hearts landscape die set. And to make the inking process a lot easier, I taped my panel to a sticky mat. This way my panel will stay still while I am applying the inks. So I placed a hillside stencil on the bottom part, and I am going to start with the sky. I want it to be very bright, just like a blue summer sky. So I am going to use tumbled glass, salty ocean and prize ribbon oxide inks. I am applying tumbled glass along the hillside stencil. Next, I am going to work my way up and add salty ocean and prize ribbon. Now let's move on to the bottom part. I want these borders to be grassy hillside borders, so I am going to use mowed lawn and rustic wilderness oxide inks. I am starting with mowed lawn on the whole section. Next, I am going to add rustic wilderness to darken it a little bit. And like the sky, I am using my blending tools back and forth to mix the inks as nicely as possible. For the remaining blank section, I am using the same green oxide inks to create a second hillside border. This will give the mice more room to have fun, and before adding more details to the sky, I am going to add texture to those two grass borders. I am just mixing some rustic wilderness oxide ink with water, and I am going to use my trusty small brush to make splatters on my panel. So I found that the sky was missing something. It was a little bit too flat to me, so I thought of adding clouds to make it more interesting. I am using the cloudy stencil along with Yeti pigment ink. I smooshed my ink pad onto my glass surface. It's a tip I learned on Nicole Spore's videos. This way I don't contaminate my white ink pad with the blue ink my blending tool might pick up from my panel. So I am going to work my way down towards the hillside stencil, and then I will add more texture to my panel. So now I am going to splatter water droplets onto the sky, and I'm using a paper towel to dry the paper. Next, I am going to mix some prize ribbon oxide ink with water and add more splatters. Finally, I am going to mix some Copic opaque white ink with water, and this time I am going to add splatters all over my panel, and this brings more light to the landscape. So here's a close-up look at this cute landscape. I set it aside to dry for about 5 minutes. And now it is all good to emboss our sentiment from Whoosh Kites. First, I am treating the paper with powder. This will help the powder to stick only to the ink and nowhere else. I am using clear embossing ink to stamp my greeting. Next, I am sprinkling white embossing powder on the ink. And finally, I am going to melt and set the embossing powder with my heat gun. Now it is time to move on to my favorite part of this busy scene process. It's time to stick all the images to see the cuteness and fun come to life. As always, I am popping my images on my panel using 1mm and 2mm foam squares. I like to add dimension to my little scenes. It brings an extra something and make my cards more interesting than if all the images were stuck flat. So we are almost done. As you can see, I added highlights and details to the images using my white gel pen. And now I am just attaching the 3 remaining images. I like to add speech bubbles on my cards. They bring more fun with their different sizes and the tiny sentiments are just amazing. Now we just need to attach our panel to a card base. I cut an 8.5 by 3.5 inches panel using the red starry paper from the pine-sized patterns Summertime 12 by 12 collection. I attached this panel to a white card base. And I am going to stick my little scene to this beautiful red panel using liquid glue. And when there is a heart or multiple hearts on my cards, I like to make them sparkle, so I am adding a little bit of White Blizzard Nuvo drops on these tiny hearts in the speech bubble. And this is it, we are done, and I love it so much. It is so stinking cute, such a happy scene. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have an amazing day and see you next time. Bye.